All right, why don't we go ahead and get started? Michelle, first item on the agenda is the TST election. I haven't filled any details in here because I wanted to make sure I got them right. What can you tell us about timeline?
I had sent you a doc yesterday that had a proposed timeline. Did you?
I have it, but is it okay if I show that doc if I can find it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so now I've got to find it. And maybe, well, I'd have to go digging. Just a second here.
Michelle, could you push a link to chat, perhaps?
If you give me 5 minutes, I should be home and I drop that in.
Yeah, so apologies. I should have had that document ready here. So we'll get a link to that, but in the interim, we're open for nominations. We've got a few. Either contact Michelle or me and say who it of course is best if you have that person's, if it's you or if you have that person's agreement that they're willing to be a nominee. So the very next thing we need to do are two things. One is to get the nominations. So we're currently soliciting nominations, and like I said, we do have some. And
So Larry, there is a criteria for who can be nominated and who can nominate, and that's in that document and it's in the governance. So
okay,
we should probably make that clear to the community before nominations start coming in, just so everyone's aware and they're not nominating folks who aren't even eligible.
so I know there's a criteria for voting. I don't remember a criteria for being on the TST.
It's one and the same. It's anyone who's I think it's contributed 2 patch sets within the prior year.
Okay. I'd forgotten. I mean, that's fine, but I had forgotten that. Okay, so yeah, there are criteria, and clearly being an active and contributor, I think is probably the two commits is probably a pretty low bar. I'm assuming that we're going to get people that are contributing more.
And Larry, those of us who have voluntarily put ourselves up for for election, let me say it that way, we are not automatically renominated, I assume.
I would assume not. And
okay. Good.
Certainly you can nominate yourself, but I would assume not. The happy situation that we're in is we do have enough people that have stepped forward or been nudged forward. So we will have enough people.
Okay, great. That's good to hear.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was figuring you were angling at.
Yeah, folks who have served on the TST can be renominated and reelected. There's nothing against that, but it's if your term is up, you would have to be reelected to serve again.
Yeah. And then the other aspect is determining who, what's the way to say it, can vote. I'll just say it can vote, qualifies to vote. And I was hoping, and it's still possible, that we will get insight from is the name of the tool Insight? I think it is the LF tool that tells us, will give us a summary of that. So, okay, so there's no more absolute required action at this moment, but just so everyone knows that this is in process. Infrastructure.
Larry,
Yeah,
regarding the infrastructure, does it qualify like a secrets for GitHub and stuff like that as part of infrastructure, or that goes
Yes,
directly on their
yes,
projects
yes.
themselves?
That should be, if there are secrets, especially if they are not, if you don't know them, it's absolutely infrastructure.
Yeah, so we are having an issue with the in the SRS run Docker repository. DAF help us creating a GitHub secret for us to be able to create tags in the repository itself in using GitHub Actions. I try, it is not working so far. I have tried a couple times. DAF made a couple modifications, but it still didn't work. So that's something that needs to be addressed.
Yes, yeah, we will. I was looking for Eric, but Michelle, I was hoping Eric would be here, but I don't see him on.
If you create a ticket for that, Gabriel, Eric should be able to get to that.
No, I
I
haven't
wanted to
created a
get
ticket. Okay.
Eric's feedback on how he wants his tickets, because there's been some confusion as to exactly the right procedure for that.
Yeah, I used to just contact.
Yeah, Gabriel, we'll take it offline. And
Okay.
figure out how to get this ticket submitted.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Barry, for introducing yourself. I was wondering who you were, and so if everyone just checks chat, you'll see we've got Barry Weaver, who has joined the call. All right, any other infrastructure topics? A shift is we're in the middle of it, but it's not complete enough to actually say anything concrete. But we are moving from DAF to Eric for infrastructure support from LF. Hopefully, there'll be more to say about that maybe on our next call. But it's right now in process. Okay, SD Core.
Yeah, so there were lots of PRs open by the Dependabot over the weekend. So we tested and merged all of them. There is a few PRs that are still open. Two of them are related to some capability that the Canonical team is adding. So as part of release 16, the TID is assigned by the UPF instead of the SMF. So the Canonical team is doing that, kind of like making the changes so which affects the UPF and affect the SMF. So if testing the two components by themselves, everything works fine. But if we put the UPF adapter in between, then things don't work. Guglielme, the person from Canonical who is actually working on this, said that he doesn't have access to he doesn't have a deployment for using the UPF adapter. So I don't know how we as a community are gonna work on these kind of situations. So the person that is making these kind of changes, it's also responsible to make sure that the other components, which for example, the UPF adapter is kind of like optional, should also make it work, or what would it be the process on these kind of cases?
I think maybe if I can add something here. So in my opinion, I think it's perfectly fine if SMF and UPF continues to work, and then maybe Bilal or me, one of us has to go and add the changes for UPF adapter. As such, it is supposed to be transparent to the changes whatever done by the Canonical team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure why it is not working, but it should be fairly transparent. There should not be any impact unless and until there is some bug in the UPF adapter itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is about changes about the TID allocation, right? That's what
Correct.
you're referring.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Logically, there should not be any issue. There could be something, but yeah, it can be handled.
Mm.
Yeah, but yeah, I think mandating because they in the past also, so this is the challenge, right? In the past also, canonical team and maybe some other folks probably they wanted to have metrics directly pulling from the network function. But on the other hand, the ONF team had done the metrics through the Kafka and then metric function, right? So that's also something they don't go and add anything new there, right? It's up to us to maintain that path. As long as that path continues to be there, it should be fine.
Yeah.
The same way, like upgrading the release, I think PFCP release upgrade is done only in the SMF and UPF, if I'm not wrong. It is not done in the UPF adapter. Yeah, so UPF adapter is already lagging in terms of catching up with the changes. And I think only the compelling reason to encourage all the members to contribute into UPF adapter is that, like, making sure that it works all the time, it's default enabled, uh, and then nobody would probably just abandon it, right? I think. Yeah, but currently I think enforcing it may be like kind of discouraging the members, that I wouldn't vote for that side. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Quick question. That UPF adapter, I'm looking at, we're not using it in our deployment. It's Ghislain from Canonical. The UPF adapter we're not using in our deployment. What is it used for? I'm looking at the project right now. The README is completely empty, so I'm not quite sure what it does, but we can, if it's broken and it's preventing that feature, we can also work on that. But I'm not exactly sure how to use that thing.
Yeah, I think then, yeah, I mean, I can add a few lines here, what it is used for. But I think the first one of the thing I should do is that add the README there, right? Okay, so the purpose why we brought UPF adapter is that we have added this support for AMF and SMF auto scaling. That means we can add the multiple instances of AMF, SMF, and we want to make sure it continues to work without any changes in the UPF. So from UPF point of view, it sees only one SMF, but behind the scene, there are multiple SMF, right? So UPF adapter is a middle layer, which terminates the connection between UPF and SMF. And scale in and scale out happens transparently. Yeah. So that was the original motivation, because it's not mandated by 3GPP. We can directly have the SMF auto scaling and UPF to be there, but then it means that we need to add some extra 3GPP functionality, like SMF set or something. So that we don't have in current UPF, right? So we wanted to support SMF scaling at the same time, not to add too much of heavy 3GPP support and not to do any UPF changes. That was the motivation. So I can add that motivation and the architecture in the UPF adapter. I believe it should be there in the doc set as well, but at least I should put some link there. Right? And now we are saying is that Canonical team has been actively doing changes in the SMF, and now recently they have started doing changes in the UPF. And we have this UPF adapter is optional. We can keep it or we can disable it, right? So currently what Gabriel is saying is that without UPF adapter, there's no problem, it works. But the moment we put UPF adapter, it doesn't work. The whole system doesn't work. That definitely means that there's some changes we need to do in the UPF adapter to make the solution work. Right, so
okay, I understand a bit more. So I'll discuss with Guillaume on my side to see what we can do to help on that side, and it might be interesting also for us to be able to scale the SMF. So I'll look into that.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Anything else on the core?
Yeah, no, overall, we are pretty much up to date. There is just a couple, besides that, we still have the scalability PRs from Purdue for and to review. So I don't know what the process, the status of that is, Ajay, because I saw that Bilal closed one of the PR from the AMF, so I don't know whether that was intentional or what was the reason for that, but most of those
I
PRs
did
are
not
as a
see.
draft.
Yeah. I did not see any small PR, whatever I'm expecting from him, right?
Mm.
So maybe I don't know, maybe what was the reason for him to close the PR?
I think he probably closed an old large PR. He told me yesterday he had an AMF smaller set of PRs he was just about ready to submit.
Oh, okay. So that's why he closed the AMF, the big PR for the AMF then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then besides that, we have another couple PRs from again the Canonical team for the web console. I think we are pretty good on that one, almost about to close to kind of finalize that one. And there is another PR from the iOS team. I think you, Ajay, have reviewed that one.
Yeah, I have added comment. I think
Mhm.
I did not get any response. Yeah, so there are a few things ongoing, right? Like Canonical teams PR, I have provided comment on the UPF code
Yep.
as well as SMF code. I need to see if there is a response on that.
There is a
Then
response just in case.
okay.
Yeah.
And iOS, the guys, they have one PR, but I wanted to know some more info before merging the PR. It seems very straightforward, but it's dealing with this slice ID and slice description, which are a bit critical fields. So just wanted to make sure that enough details are available there. Then, apart from this, when I tried to use Aether on ramp recently, I encountered a problem where it seems like web console was stuck, uh, and none of the network function received any configuration, right? And when I debugged it, it was related with the uh, I guess SD core adapter. Some hooks are added where we keep trying to fetch the config from the uh, rock, if I'm not wrong. I don't know why we have that configuration enabled by default. But I removed that configuration and then things started working, right? So I need to debug it, like is it that config always causes the problem? But at the same time, no one from community reported any issues about basic Ether on ramp work, right? So maybe there's something timing issues which happened on my setup
Yeah, it
that
might be
needs further
timing. As a
debugging. Yeah.
general rule, it builds pretty
Yeah.
consistently, but it could be timing.
Yeah, so that's one of the thing that need to look at it. Like I just disabled config and it started working for me. But okay. Then second thing is that do we have like there was one proposal from iOS guys, like iOS Simpson guys, like the way we manage the configuration about multiple device group. They have proposal about the keeping the single device group but adding the more DNNs within the single device group. Yeah, I mean, I was like, if we can start adding that thing, right, and then we can work on the design, because I don't mind having that configuration changes as long as the basic existing configuration continues to work. It seems like they want to extend the existing configuration, which is perfectly fine, but then it also means that it's not just SMF. We need to take a start all the way, starting from the web console, how the configuration events are handled, how we are pushing this configuration in the MongoDB. Everything needs to taken care, right? Not just focusing only on the SMF part. I think that's where it's a bit of missing part currently. Uh, Change requested is fine, reasonable, but end-to-end change needs to be done, not just one network function. Yeah,
Yeah.
because when I was doing this design, I mean, I was also of the same opinion whatever they have proposed. But only thing is that time we were not thinking about multi DNN call and all, right? So we took simple approach.
Right. And that's a great high level point, just as a reminder to everyone that it is probably best to propose designs that potentially have any potential for reach of impact, and then get them vetted before submitting PRs. which is the point I think, AJ, you raised in the Slack channel.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have two set of folks. Like canonical team, typically they are focused more on the web console side, where they come up with directly PRs, and many times then the PR takes some time to merge because it has never gone through the regular process, right? That's perfectly fine. I mean, we can have that kind of PRs coming in. Just that code review takes time. If somebody else has any proposal, then I would say that bring the proposal, get the agreement, and then it's easy to get the code merged, right? So I'm fine with both the things. Only thing is, like, people should be patient that their peers are not getting merged or things are taking time, right? So yeah, and iOS MCN guys seems to be on the second side, where like they're trying to get consensus and get things done.
Yep, thank you. And if just process-wise, we do have a Jira set up. And so if you have an issue you're addressing that you think is more than extremely localized, I think I would really encourage people to start using, set up a ticket there, scope it out, get people to comment there, and then link that back to a PR at some point. I mean, that would be a method of doing it. It's one that we're prepared for.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll bring the feedback to our team.
Thanks. And
Yeah,
any
I think we are
momentum
fine.
any momentum to get this into Jira will start the practice. I think we just need to get that into that practice. Move on to SD-RAN.
Yeah, hi. So we are actually still working on the 1.5 release. It's almost done. So the first one is Aether ONNAP now has SD-RAN 1.5 ham-chart version. So it seems working fine. And second one is well, we are very much struggled with the user documentation website and GitHub action on it. So last time we fixed it, but we just realized last week that all the old version of the documentation was gone. So we fixed it. So the problem was the multi-version command was not working properly, so we fixed it, and now all the versions show up again. So the user documentation webpage is now working fine. And also still we are working on the documentation for 1.5. First one, the release note draft is ready. I'm reviewing it now, but probably I think sometime this week I will ask a review, probably to Larry and some other people here. Also, hardware installation, user documentation, engineering team, especially Hyunmin, who is working for one of the Korea university, is leading it. Basically, he has a setup in his lab, and he is testing it and then updating the hardware installation documentation, because that is currently the hardware installation documentation is out of date. So he is updating it right now. And Aether ONNAP for SD-RAN, also draft is ready. Engineering team gave me the draft, so I'm reviewing it right now. And probably I think once I complete the review and it looks good, I will submit that draft to both Aether documentation website as well as the SD-RAN documentation website. So that is about the documentation things. Hopefully I can complete it by the end of next Monday for all of those 3 bullets, because Monday is the regular meeting time with the engineering team. So once it's done, then I think, well, we are ready to release for SD-RAN 1.5. And that is about the 1.5 release. And other than that, for engineering team is actually debugging the E2 decoding issue when we try to use VRB E2 simulator. So we well, at least we have a E2 simulator there, and also we set up our rig along with the VRB E2 simulator, and we got the error message that it seems like well, decoding the padding 0 bit has some issues when VIB2 simulator packet is arrived from the in the C2T. So engineering team is also debugging it right now. Hopefully we can complete it this year after 1.5 release. And other than that, also we are brainstorming some work items for the next release. The major work item should be, first we need to resolve some dependable issue. We need to bump up all the Go versions and dependency versions there. And also we need to merge CCC service model there. And also we need to redesign the API and E2SM things, because that is a bit out of date. And other than that, that is about the major engineering topic. And also engineering team wants to do some research with the SD-RAN. So we are brainstorming on it right now. And also last thing is, well, this year actually engineering team showcased SD-RAN to the multiple conferences. So I asked them to summarize and then post it to the SD-RAN Wiki website. So hopefully we can get some summary of that event soon. So once it's posted, I will let you know. So that's all from SD-RAN team.
So Woo-Jean, thank you. And the next set of engineering issues you closed with there, those are on the wiki page, right?
Correct. Yes.
Thanks. I didn't bother to record them here, so I wasn't fast enough. I'll just summarize, starting to turn focus to next release, see wiki.
Yeah.
Okay. On-ramp. Anything else, Woo-Jean, or anybody else on SD-RAN? Okay, on-ramp. Gabriel, first couple of bullets are yours.
Yes. Larry, what is the process for testing the new Helm charts? I think the latest that we have so far, we are in version 2. But I don't know what is the process that you follow to kind of make this official and make it part of on-ramp itself. Should we open a PR first, or is something that you do it offline and then create a PR, or what is the process for this?
Well, so what we could do is you could go ahead and create a PR, and then I have a manual test I run that tests the PR. So why don't we go ahead and do it that way?
Okay. Yeah, so the second bullet point is that as part of the project that we're working on, we created the SRS, the blueprint for SRS ramp. So actually Suresh created. As part of that, since there is no official images from the SRS run team, we actually have we created a repository called SRS run Docker, where we have a couple Docker files to create the Docker images from there, and we are pushing those Docker images to Docker Hub. For now, the SRS run blueprint is only working in simulation mode. So basically, we created a Docker image for the GNLB and a Docker image for the UE. The next step on that side is to enable also the connection of a USRP. So GNLB uses a USRP for the RF side, and also kind of connect with any UE or commercial UEs or 5G USB modems. There is a couple of things that we need to still address on this SRS run blueprint. There is when running some tests, time to time the AMF crashes. So we're trying to figure out what is the reason of that, whether there is something specific that some type of signal that comes from the SRS runs that make the AMF crash, but it's something that also Suresh is going to be working on trying to address that part. Yeah, I think that's what we have done so far for on-ramp, and also you help us actually merge into the dependency for SRS running on-ramp. So
great, thank you. That's looking forward to giving it a try. And the last bullet, it's a minor one, but there's a bunch of subnets and bridges in on-ramp that I'm just trying to clean up so that we can make sense of them. It's kind of confusing right now.
Actually, I have one more thing about the on-ramp overall. That's a kind of topic I have brought in the past. When we use on-ramp to deploy, any Ether component, the host ini file, basically we have to indicate the user password and the pseudo password, right? So the password itself for the SSH, we can go around using the SSH keys, but for the pseudo password, it has to be there. So the thing is that when we start kind of sharing these deployments, or basically sharing the machine where on-ramp is located across multiple people, the password is not going to be hidden anymore, right? So it's going to be visible user password to other users. So any suggestions on how to go about this? I was thinking on exploring whether Ansible Bolt would be a good way to avoid.
Well, I don't
this,
think we need to do that because I'm pretty sure you can set it up so that you don't need the password, but I'll have to go verify that. I mean, the other thing to do here is just make sure nobody checks in a host.inventory file. You download it, but you never check it back in.
Well, that would work to commit the host ini file, right? So the changes to commit to GitHub, let's say those changes. But still, if the system is shared across multiple people, and if they want to see the same source files, let's say we put the on-ramp not in the home directory, but in the, let's say, OPT directory, right? So where everybody can have access to. So other users can actually access to that host ini file without having to commit it to GitHub.
Yeah, I am pretty sure you can make it work without a password there, but let me verify that and then we'll figure something out.
Yeah, let me know, because I was kind of trying to explore Ansible Bolt as an alternative. But yeah, so if it is possible to do it without pseudo password, that would be even better. So we don't have to worry about that, and it will be kind of transparent for the users. Because I guess if we use Ansible Bolt, we have to do some additional steps for the users
that's an unpleasant extra level of complexity.
Yeah, but it's something.
I mean, obviously, either you can get away without it because you have configured so that your Ether account is automatically as sudo, or you've got some password like Ether, which is I think the default, and that works just fine because you spin it up a VM and no one's ever going to care. So having a shared Ether server is kind of weird, isn't it?
Not really.
Okay.
Because when you have large teams actually working on something, then they're going to be trying to see if you make let's assume that we are kind of using the same deployment. So first, I don't want to mess with what you have there. So in my case, what I can do is I can remove everything and then install my own stuff. And then later on, you want to do something on that. So your case would be to remove everything and deploy everything on your side. So one way to avoid that kind is just have a single on-ramp where I can see and you can see, both of us can see what changes have been done from the configuration perspective. Because this is just configuration itself, right? So from the configuration perspective is what type of configuration the current deployment is using, and then what changes you may need to do on top of that.
Yeah, okay. Let me see what I made work, and I just can't remember exactly how I did it.
Okay. Thanks.
See if I can suggest something. All right, and
So Larry, is it possible, since you are doing this on-ramp work and you're talking about some networks, right? Is it possible to give some subnet to GNodeB SIM and interfaces exposed on the host level? So
Well,
I mean,
there
I
is,
just
there is a bridge,
yeah,
that is the Genode
yeah.
B SIM bridge.
Yeah, if we can add, I mean, like the issue what I have is that I'm not getting enough time to go and look around those commands to create that bridge. If we can have some interface outside GNodeB SIM, which we can see within the GNodeB SIM as well, then we can I can get the traffic thing working, right? Which has been pending for a long time.
Yeah, so this is what motivated this whole process, is I was just trying to document all the stuff that's being used. And what I don't record, I record the Ansible variable, but what I don't record here is the Linux bridge. I'll add a Linux bridge column when it's appropriate.
Okay.
And this is also what I'm just trying to clean up, because it was really hard to explain this. I realized.
Okay.
And if it's hard to explain, that it's probably not implemented really well.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, yeah. Okay, so I will complete this, and it is an important thing that we get cleaned up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let me just include it. It sort of falls under this one. Okay, ARA.
Yeah, this is Tianyi. Yeah, for SD run side, right now it's working in order. And right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to see how the rig can support like the research area we are interested, like URLC, network slicing, and also spectrum sharing.
Cool. So you will be doing, I would guess you will be doing some XApp development work then as part of that.
It depends actually. Yeah, but yeah, you are like mainly right. So for us, we are really curious about the three aspects I mentioned, and we will see whether and how XApp can provide us support in this part, or we need to like have some extra change on the DU side.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe Larry, this is Hongwei. I can just add a bullet point there. Essentially, URLC and spectrum slicing are two broad directions I think our team will be working on. So far, we have been mostly working on it from the kind of more traditional monolithic architecture. Right, so the idea here would be to say, I understand URLC was not even part of the focus for Orion so far, right? So I guess what also so is spectrum sharing. So I guess my hunch is to fully support these new capabilities, we probably need kind of refinement or innovations at the different time scales. Definitely the time scale of, this about 10 millisecond to second level, that's one time scale we'll look at. There will be probably long real-time rig part and also the DU side that we'll try to look at in parallel. So to your question, yes, I think the answer is that I think the team here is really looking forward to see how we can potentially develop apps, or even potentially, if there's any opportunity, whether even some of the rigs may potentially can be further refined to support such use cases.
Nice. Okay, good. Looking forward to it.
Okay, that's SD run. So Josh, are you here? Is Josh SD run, SD core?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So for the SD core, I think last we did some tests and also had some joint meeting between the Aether team. I think Gabriel and Suresh was there, and then folks from Ericsson as well. So we have been able to get a stable throughput with the Ericsson run now. I think averagely we are getting around like 600 Mbps. So one thing that we observed, so we ran some like tools on the G-Node B to kind of understand how much throughput the SD core is pushing towards the RAM. So we realized that the SD core was pushing around 850 Mbps towards the G-Node B. And out of that, the UE was getting around 600 Mbps. So this, I think during the time of this meeting, we're having some rainy weather. So I mean, it could also be as a result of the wireless conditions during the rain. That's why the UE wasn't getting up to what the core network was pushing to the run. So we are trying to do more tests during a different weather condition and see how that actually affects the throughput. But I think one thing that was, maybe Gabriel can chime in here, but one thing that was worth checking is why the SD core was pushing only 850 out of the 1 Gbps towards the run. So I mean, for now, we have been able to get the inconsistent throughput issue solved. So I think going forward, we will try to enable DPDK for the UPF and see if we are able to get a little bit higher throughput, and also try to connect multiple G-Node B. So now our testing has been with a single G-Node B. So we try to connect multiple G-Node Bs, like 4 G-Node Bs to the core network, and then we can scale up the UE and see how things perform. So, yeah.
So can you say what it is that improved the throughput? What change you made, or what you learned that got you at least to the 850?
So for the throughput stability issue, before that, we had issues with throughput sometimes dropping to 0 and then picking up again, and causing the overall average to be lower than what we have seen recently. But I think after that time, our team did some troubleshooting on the transport side, like the connectivity between the core network at the data center and then the G-Node B in the field. So we did some MTU settings there, even though we are not really sure if that may have any significant impact, but we are still investigating what exactly may have caused this issue to go away, actually. But after we observed that particular issue, during our next troubleshooting, we try to make sure that we check the transport between the core network and then the G-Node B. So that is the only changes that we have made so far, but we didn't do anything to the SD core itself. So yeah.
Okay, that's interesting to learn. It was, you think it's in the transport and just getting that tuned right.
Yeah, so far that is hypothesis now, but we are still kind of doing more investigation to see what exactly may have caused this issue. So
got it.
So if I recall, you were getting good performance with an Ericsson core and poor performance with SD core. Is that right?
yes. So for Ericsson core, it was good. It was stable. We also had throughput around 1 Gbps. Yeah, and then we weren't having stable throughput with the open source core, especially the SD core. But now we have a stable throughput now, so we are just trying to kind of push the throughput a little bit higher.
Right. But I guess I'm trying to understand how changing the transport fixed it. I mean, well, is the Ericsson core and the SD core both using the same transport?
It's not. I'm going to guess, Timon. I'm just to interject here that they had probably tuned their core so that it spoke the right MTU size and did some things that was less sensitive to the transport.
By they, you mean Ericsson. Ericsson had tuned their
Yeah,
core.
yeah.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah.
They just
And-
used a small MTU or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and also the transport is different. I mean, not entirely different. Some part of it is inside what we have right now for the open source core. But for example, like the Ericsson core is not like located at we have it at a different location. So I mean, the transport network is not entirely the same as what we have for the open source. So,
Right.
Basically, the two cores were not co-located.
yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so as part of the enabling the DPDK, also we are taking a closer look into that to see how we can make these things, this kind of deployment easier through on-ramp. So basically this is something that Suresh also started, the enabling the DPDK, but also going beyond that, the current deployment. So making it more flexible from the perspective of number of hubs and many other things that can be easy for end users to just, use that deployment.
Okay, is there anything else on this or any other topic? All right, thank you, everybody. One last thing before we adjourn. I'm kind of guessing that maybe next Tuesday's doesn't work for a lot of people. Well, I'll volunteer. It doesn't work for me, but maybe everyone else wants to still have a call. Any strong feelings?
We should have, maybe even if it is a small, short.
Okay, so it'll still be it'll be on the agenda. I mean, sorry, it will be on the calendar. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep, bye.
Bye.